If you've watched behind the scenes of a studio shoot, you may have seen that the photographer's shooting and the images are popping up on their computer. This is something called tethering. And personally, I tether all the time. And there are many different ways to tether. There's different tools, different software, and different reasons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a moment to explain all of these things to you so that you can be able to tether at home. Now, one of the reasons I like to shoot tethered is because I'm a fashion photographer. And so when I'm shooting, there's so many different things going on in set. For example, there's hair and makeup, and I'm focused maybe on the lighting and the posing. And so what I really like is that as I'm shooting, the images are popping up in my computer, and maybe the hairstylist can be watching for the hair, making sure that looks good. Or maybe the wardrobe stylist can be making sure that the clothing are photographing well. And then on a photographic side, another reason that I like to do this is maybe I'm shooting an effect with a narrow depth of field, and it's hard to stop, click on the back of my camera, zoom in and check the focus. But on my computer, I can instantly and quickly check to make sure I have that perfect critical focus. So that's more of the practical reasons when you're collaborating. But another reason I really like to tether is for more creative purposes. When I'm shooting, sometimes what I'm getting in camera, I know is not exactly what the end file will look like. Maybe I know that the end shot's going to be in black and white and high contrast. And so one of the benefits of tethering is I can tether into my computer and I can change that right in the computer. So I can change in Lightroom, make it black and white, add high contrast, pop the highlights, and then what I'm envisioning in my head and what I know will be the final output as I'm shooting, it's popping up so I can see how the entire shoot is coming together. And this is particularly important when I'm shooting with a client. So there's going to be a special look and feel or color toning or change in exposure they can see instead of just the image I'm capturing, where that's going. So it's all of these things. It's collaborating, checking your histogram to check your exposure, checking your focus, applying creative effects. So there's a lot of reasons that tethering can be useful. Now, when you tether, there are several different programs that can help you tether. For example, most camera manufacturers actually have a piece of software that comes with the camera that's free that will allow you to tether. But they're usually really clunky, they're slow, they're not intended to really handle a lot of files. And so instead, I recommend one of two programs. The two programs that are most often used for tethering are Adobe Lightroom, and the other one is Capture One. And so there's kind of pros and cons to each of these. The reason I usually use Adobe Lightroom is because I use Lightroom to organize all my files. I'm very familiar with it, I'm very comfortable with it, and so I'm shooting into an environment that I use all the time. Plus, I already have an Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, and so it's software I already own. I don't have to pay anything else. So I think that's a huge benefit. The other program I mentioned is Capture One, and Capture One is what you usually see on a lot of big professional sets. It's really good with medium format files, and it was actually created with tethering in mind. That's why they made this particular program. It's fast, it's stable, it doesn't lose connection easily, so these are all reasons that a lot of people like to use it for tethering. The downside is, of course, if you already know Lightroom and Photoshop, you have to learn another program. And then, of course, you have to buy another program. So you've got to weigh all of these pros and cons. So I've told you about the reasons to tether and then also the programs to tether. But how about how to actually tether? Now, there's several different ways to tether. For example, there's actually cards that you can put in your camera that are Wi-Fi that will send images to your computer, but that is usually super slow. And then there's actually pieces of hardware that you can attach that will digitally transfer, again, through wireless, images to Lightroom or to another program. But I shoot really big files. I'm usually shooting with a 5DS or a Canon 5D Mark IV. And so those big files, when I'm sending them wirelessly with the current technology, go really slow to the computer. They don't transfer quickly. And so instead, I like to shoot so that I'm actually using a cable to connect my camera to the computer. Because when I do that, the files transfer much more quickly. And if you've seen how I shoot, I typically shoot very quickly and with large files. So I'm going to talk to you specifically about how to physically tether your camera to your computer. All right, so whenever you are tethering from your camera to your computer, you are going to need a cable. But it's not like it's one cable, one size fits all. You actually have to pick a cable specifically for your camera. And so what you're looking for is you're looking for the tether port. And different cameras have different ones. So just make sure you buy the cable that works with your camera. All right, so the cord, this particular one that I have here, is from a company called Tether Tools. And the reason I buy from Tether Tools is that they have all of these different solutions for tethering. So they work together. For example, if you have a really long cable, maybe you're shooting further away from your computer, or you're shooting so you need a little bit more length. At times, that file, it's being pushed over a long distance and it will go kind of slow. So they actually sell things that are called tether boosters. So what it does is it pushes the signal so it goes a little bit more quickly into your computer. So it's kind of a whole ecosystem intended to be for tethering. First of all, you've got your cable. You could get a booster if you want. But one of the things I recommend is if you go with the Tether Tools cable, get this right angle cable, because what it does is when it goes into the camera itself, it's got less wiggle, it's got less give. So it helps keep a more consistent connection between your camera and your computer. And then the other super useful thing is what I have on the bottom of the camera here, and it's called a tether block. This was a separate company, but Tether Tools actually bought this company and they're producing it now. And what this does is it holds tight, you screw it in so that the cable is in the bottom of your camera, and then it doesn't wiggle. Because that's one of the problems with tethering is sometimes it's slow, but sometimes you lose the connection. And so this keeps the connection nice and stable. So I would definitely recommend kind of getting this combination if you intend to do a lot of tethering.